Okay, I've just come over to the MobX documentation just to point out what we're taking a look at here really. And we're taking a look at the updating state using actions. And what we want to take a look at here is the asynchronous actions. And if we take a look, it tells us that async processes don't need any special treatment in MobX, as all reactions will update automatically regardless of the moment in time they are caused. And since observable objects are mutable, it is generally safe to keep references to them for the duration of the action. However, every step or tick that updates observables in an asynchronous process should be marked as an action. Now, what we're looking at, and let's go and take a look at what it means by this. And if we take a look at the async await, it tells us that any steps after await aren't in the same tick, so they require action wrapping. And we've got choices. We could use something called run in action, which is basically a function that we can wrap around multiple lines of code. Or we can use a handler type of action, but this doesn't work so well with async await. This is more useful for if we were using just promises. If we're using async await, then we can leverage the run in action. And if we take a look at our error, then it's telling us that the loading initial is the part that's causing the problem here. So let's go back and take a look at our code and inside the activity store. So we're getting our activities and passing it out to a list. Then we're updating our states. And then we're setting the loading initial observable to false. And what we can do inside our try block, we can use the run in action. And this takes a function. So we can add the function as the parameter, and then we can cut our code inside here and paste it inside the run in action. And that will resolve the issue. However, if we do get an error, then we're also going to get a problem if we try and turn this off without this being inside a run in action, because if we run into a problem with our await, then we go into the catch, and again, this is in the next tick. So we would also need to do the same for this as well. So we could say run in action, and then add this loading initial and set this to false inside there. And if we go and take a look at our application and the console, and let's just refresh the page once again, then it works and we don't get any warnings. Great! But there is another way to take a look at this as well, and an alternative approach is to make the setting of the loading its own action. So instead of updating the observable from inside this action, we create a new action and then use that inside this action here. So what we could do, for instance, is we could add an action, say, set loading initial. And this can take the state, which is going to be a Boolean. And inside here, we could say this.loading initial equals state, whatever we want to set this to. Then what we could do is for each of these setting of the loading initial, we can say set loading initial and then say true for the first one. And then let's just copy this line and we'll remove the run in action and the setting of state there and paste this.setLoadingInitial equals true, and then we'll just do the same for this one as well. And remove the run in action, and we need to actually turn off the loading initial here, so we'll say false in both of those. And because this is happening inside its own action, we don't need to wrap it. So if we go back and take a look and we refresh the page, then our application loads. We're still getting a warning because we've imported run in action, and we don't actually need to import this here. So let's just change that. And if we go back and refresh the page again, we should get a clean console and we're meeting the requirements of what we're doing inside strict mode there. So as we go throughout this process of updating our code, we'll notice that we're breaking things as we go along. And what we'll do is we'll refactor our code and fix this. And what we'll take a look at next is selecting an activity so that when we click on the view button, we can see it on the right hand side.